Chapter 7 Bryce. Get a grip, man. It didn't take long for me to realize that I traded in my old problems with Julie Baker for a whole new set of problems with Julie Baker. I could feel her anger a mile away. It was actually worse having her mad at me than having her harass me. Why? Because I'd screwed up. That's why. I had egg I had I had egg all over my face, and blaming it on her yard had done nothing to wash it off. The way she ignored me, or so obviously avoided me, was a screaming loud reminder to me that I'd been a jerk, a royal clock-faced jerk. Then one day, I'm coming home from hanging out with Garrett after school, and there's Julie in her front yard, hacking at a shrub. She is threshing on the thing. Branches are flying over her shoulder, and clear across the street I can hear her grunting and growling and saying stuff like, "No, you don't. You're coming off, whether you like it or not." Did I feel good about this? No, my friend, I did not. Yeah, their yard was a mess, and it was about time someone did something about it. But come on, where's the dad? What about Matt and Mike? Why Julie? Because I'd embarrassed her into it. That's why. I felt worse than ever. So I snuck inside and tried to ignore the fact that here's my desk and here's my window, and right across the street from me is Julie, beating up a bush. Not conducive to concentration. No, sorry. No, sorry, Bob. I got all of Gerald's homework done. The next day at school, I was trying to get up the nerve to say something to her, but I never even got the chance. She wouldn't let me get anywhere near her. Then, on the ride home, I had this stuff. I had this stuff. I had this thought. It kind of freaked me out at first, but the more I played with it, the more I figured that, yeah, helping her with the yard would make up for my having been such a jerk. Assuming she didn't boast me too much, and assuming she didn't decide to get all gooey-eyed or something stupid like that. No, I'd go up and just tell her that I felt bad for being a jerk and I wanted to make it up to her by helping her cut back some bushes. Period. End of story. And if she still wanted to be mad at me after that, then fine. That was her problem. My problem was I never got the chance. I came tracking down from the bus stop to find my grandfather doing my good deed. Now jump back. This was not something I could immediately observe. My grandfather did not do yard work. At least, he'd never offered to help me out. My grandfather lived in house slippers. Where did he get those work boots? And those jeans and that flannel shirt. What was up with those? I crouched behind the neighbor's hedge and watched them for 10 or 15 minutes, and man, the longer I watched it, the madder I got. My grandfather had already said more to her in this little slice of time than he said to me the whole year and a half he'd been living with us. What was his deal with Julie Baker? I took the back way home, which involved climbing 2 fences and kicking off the neighbor's stupid little terrier. But it was worth it, considering I avoided the garden party across the street. Again, I got no homework done. The more I watched them, the madder I got. I was still a clock-faced jerk, while Julie was laughing it up with my grandfather. Had I ever seen him smile? Really smile? I don't think so. But now he was knee-high in nettles, laughing. At dinner that night, he showered and changed back into his regular clothes and house slippers, but he didn't look the same. It was like someone had plugged him in and turned on the light. "Good evening," he said as he sat down with the rest of us. "Oh, Patsy, That looks delicious. Well, Dad, my mom said with a laugh, your excursion across the street seems to have done you a world of good. Yeah, my father said. Patsy tells me you've been over there all afternoon. If you're in the mood for home improvement project, why didn't you just say so? My father was just joking around, but I don't think my grandfather took it that way. He helped himself to a cheese stuffed potato and said, pass the salt, won't you, Bryce? So there was this definite tension between my father and my grandfather. But I think if Dad had dropped the subject right then, the vibe would have vanished. Dad didn't drop it, though. Instead, he said, so why is the girl the one whose family doing something about their place? My grandfather salted his potato very carefully, then looked across the table at me. Oh, I thought. Oh. In a flash, I knew those stupid eggs were not behind me. 2 years of sneaking them in the trash. 2 years of avoiding discussion of Julie and her eggs and her chickens and her early morning visit. Early morning visit. And for what? Granddad knew. I could see it in his eyes. In a matter of seconds, he'd crack open the truth, and I'd be as good as fried. Enter a miracle. My grandfather petrified me for a minute with his eyes, but then turned to my father and said, she wants to, is all. A raging river of sweat ran down my temples, and as my father said, well, it's about time someone did. My grandfather looked back at me and I knew he was not gonna let me forget this. We just had another conversation. Only this time I was definitely not dismissed. After the dishes were cleared, I retreated to my room. But my grandfather came right in, closed the door behind him, and then sat on my bed. He did this all without making a sound, not squawking, no clanking, no scrapping, no breathing. I swear, the guy moved through my room like a ghost. And of course, I'm banging my knee and dropping my pencil and deteriorating into a pathetic pool of jelly O. But I tried my best to sound cool as I said, hello, Granddad. Come to check out the digs? He pinched his lips together and looked at nothing but me. I cracked. Look, Granddad, I know I messed up. I should have just told her, but I couldn't. And I kept thinking they'd stop. I mean, how long can a chicken lay eggs? Those things hatched in the 5th grade. That was like 3 years ago. Don't they eventually run out? And what was I supposed to do? Tell her mom was afraid of salmonella poisoning? And Dad wanted me to tell her we were allergic. Come on. Who's gonna buy that? So I just kept, throwing them out. I didn't know she could have sold them. I thought they were just extras. He was nodding, but very slowly. I sighed and said, thank you for not saying anything about it at dinner. I owe you. He pulled my curtain aside and looked across the street. One's character is set at an early age, son. The choices you make now will affect you for the rest of your life. He was quiet for a minute, then dropped the curtain and said, I hate to see you swim out so far you can't swim back. Yes, sir. He frowned and said, don't yes sir me, Bryce. Then he stood and added, just think about what I've said. And the next time you're faced with a choice, do the right thing. It hurts everyone less in the long run. With that poof, he was gone. The next day I went to shoot some hoops at garage after school. And when his mom dropped me off later that afternoon, my granddad didn't even notice. He was too busy being Joe Carpenter in Julie's front yard. I tried to do my homework at the breakfast bar, but my mom came home from work and started being all chatty. And then Lunetta appeared and the two of them started fighting about whether Lunetta's makeup made her look like a wounded raccoon. Lunetta, I swear she'll never learn. I packed up my stuff and escaped to my room. which of course was a total waste. They've got a, they've got a saw revving and wailing across the street. And in between cuts, I can hear the whack, 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 whack of a hammer. I look out the window and there's Julie, spitting out nails and slamming them in place. No kidding. She's got nails lined up between her lips like stealing cigarettes. And she's swinging that hammer full arc, way above her head, driving nails into pickets like they're going in the butter. They're going in the butter. For a split second there, I saw my head as the recipient of her hammer, cracking open like Humpty Dumpty. I shuddered and dropped the curtain, ditched the homework, and headed for the TV. They had demand all week, and every night Granddad would come in with rosy cheeks and a huge appetite, and compliment my mom on what a great cook she was. Then Saturday happened, and the last thing I wanted was to spend the day at home while my grandfather churned up dirt and helped plant Julie's yard. Mom tried to get me to do our own yard, but I would have felt ridiculous micro-mowing our grass with Granddad and Julie making rear changes right across the street. So I locked myself in my room and called Garrett. He wasn't home. And everybody else I called had stuff they had to do. And hitting up mom or dad for a ride to the movies or the mall was hopeless. They'd tell me I was supposed to be doing the yard.